Okay. All right. So, Mark, did you watch any awesome football games yesterday?
Oh, we're live.
Yeah, we're live, all the way live.
I watched a lot of football games, and I'm glad that you brought up football because I have a special announcement to make in a second here.
Ooh.
But yeah, it was pretty cool. I actually went to the Yard House in Sacramento, near the Doco, near the theaters, the new movie theaters and stuff they have over there.
Sick.
And Jake and I went. I had some tuna appetizer, and then I got tuna for a tuna entree as well. I went double tuna dinner. It was really good.
Hmm.
But yeah, the games were good. I was surprised that the Vikings won,
Yeah.
and it looks like they're playing the 49ers, right?
So what's crazy
Vikings
about
are
that,
a football team, American football, and they hail from Minnesota. They wear purple and
Purple and gold.
Yep, there you go.
Hey,
There we go.
attaboy.
I played a few video games when I was a kid.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what's cool about that, but also sucks at the same time, is like now the Niners play a lesser team, but like everyone's kind of excited for the Seahawks versus Niners kind of rematch,
Right.
which makes me nervous as hell because there's a good chance that they'll play at the NFC title.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
history will show that we've never been able to beat them.
Yeah.
Like,
They
it's
might.
just one of those things. It very much reminds me of Niners Cowboys back in the day.
They might play him in the next round.
It's
Right.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even
So that'll be a hell of a game to try and see, right?
The-
Live.
them or Green Bay would be sick, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we obviously have to get through the Vikings,
Hmm.
and then we'll go from there.
And Nsima, have you ever been to any professional sports games? Like you ever been to a Kings game or an NFL game or anything like that?
I have been to a Kings game when I was younger. I think I'm in like my
People always
teens.
tell me I need to go see hockey live. I'm like, I don't really care about hockey, but people are
People
like,
talk
no,
about
they're
it
like,
like it's
no, you don't
nuts.
understand. Like it's so much fun,
I feel like it's for the
I've never
fights, yeah.
been. I need to go.
Yeah, I feel like it's for the fights. But anything else?
That's probably true. huh?
Yeah. Those fights must be like super fun to watch.
Probably intense up close. Yeah.
Everyone
Mhm.
always says we got to go check out the Stockton. Oh, they have a hockey team.
Oh
Oh
wow.
wow.
Yeah, they're supposed to be really fun to go see.
Huh.
I'd rather go to the Sharks though. Would be sick.
Yeah, but not many live sports games to be honest. Not many. So
Well, I've been to some of the football games this year, and that was actually really cool. But Andrew was telling me about the playoffs, and he said you went to a playoff game.
Yeah. So
A while back.
not the last football game I went to, but I was at the game where Alex Smith threw a touchdown to Terrell Davis.
Oh yeah, Terrell Davis.
Terrell Davis in overtime to beat the Saints.
Mm.
It was just, yeah, one of the most amazing experiences like ever. I
wow.
was telling Mark like the
A
whole
lot of energy, like the whole stadium's going buck
intense.
wild.
The whole first quarter, nobody could sit down. Like it was just like, what's going on here? Like it
Mhm.
was, like I said, probably like the best experience like ever. It was sick.
That's
All
great.
right, well,
Yeah.
here's a good time for me to drop this in. I'm actually nervous saying this. Here we go. Andrew, I got you and your wifey tickets to the 49er game, and you're going with Andy and I.
Whoa.
Like this Sunday?
I just bought them just now when I went to the bathroom.
Oh, wait, seriously?
Yeah,
Are you serious, dude?
I'm serious.
Holy shit.
We're going on Saturday, buddy.
Damn.
You got to stay on your diet, though.
Yeah.
I'll be checking in on you.
That's wow. I think his eyes are really
I'm about to cry, dude.
Hey man.
It's
That's
going to be
dope.
fun, dude. I'm excited. It'll be
Holy
cool.
shit. Wow.
We didn't
Okay.
get you the same seats as we got, but you're coming with us.
Hey, it's
You're
still
not,
dope.
and you're not in
Hey,
the nosebleeds.
the worst part of everything is just the drive there. So if I'll drive for you, but that's usually the worst part.
I think we're going to take a train up there and then get a car ride back. something
Holy
like that.
shit!
'Cause I heard that works pretty good, but I don't know.
It'll be Stephanie's first Niner game.
Oh, there you go.
Ooh.
Holy shit!
Sweet.
I better find
Maybe you can get married on the 50-yard line.
it.
Have your wedding right there.
Her birthday's tomorrow,
See, there you go.
so yeah.
Hopefully she's not listening to this live. Hopefully it's a surprise later
I
on.
don't know. We'll see. Hold on.
And then just like if you didn't get her a gift, just say, "Hey, babe, I got you for
yeah, that would be
yeah,
sick.
yeah, that's right. I got you a little something.
Oh my gosh!
Anyway, I think we're supposed to be talking about the carnivore diet, but we got a little derailed there
I just
in the
wanted to talk
beginning.
about the game.
I think it's let's see, what the hell is today? Today is the 6th. So that means it's day number 6 of World Carnivore Month.
Wow.
And I don't know if I've shared this on the air yet, but I have.
She's listening.
I have to. Oh, cool. I have told you guys about my mother-in-law doing the carnivore diet. She's been diabetic for several years now, and she's had some success with dieting in the past and helping her blood glucose levels and stuff like that. So day 1 of the carnivore diet, she felt pretty good. I kind of noticed that she was under eating a little bit. Day number 2, she wakes up and her blood glucose is like sky high. And she's like, what's going on? Like, why is that happening? And I said, well, it could be a reaction of not eating any carbohydrates and also still taking your medication. Because like the human body just does weird shit. I'm like, I don't really know what happened there.
Yeah.
100%. But I also said, just relax. And it's just one day. And I was like, how do you actually feel? And she said, I feel fine. And I was like, okay, no trouble there. She did say her stomach was bothering her a little bit, but I was just like, it just takes time to get used to these diets. Anytime anyone goes from eating one way to eating another way, you're going to notice some differences with your stomach. You're going to notice some differences in your bowel movements. Like your bowel movements might be greatly reduced, especially if you start doing fasting, or especially if you go from a diet where you have a lot of carbohydrates and then now you have none. It's going to take some time for your body to adjust. And some of the information I've heard is it has to do with the hydration and the amount of water like in your bowels and stuff like that. But I don't like to make things too complicated. I just know that when you eat differently, you're going to poop differently.
Yeah.
And you're going to have some different situations going on. But anyway, she's been sticking it out. She's been staying on the plan. And I said, you know what? The best thing you can do for your sugar is to try to use that sugar up a little bit. So go hit up a walk. And she's like, all right. She's like, I got my headphones on. I'm hitting up my walk. And then the next day, on day 3 of the carnivore diet, again, keep in mind she's been diabetic or was diagnosed with diabetes probably like 8 years ago. She woke up with her blood glucose at 75, and that's the best that it's been in 5 years.
Wow.
So I'm not saying the diet, cured her, because it's not a cure. It's not like, oh, now I'm all good. She still has to stay on the plan. She still has to continue to walk. She still has to continue to eat meat and stuff like that. But the main point here is that the food that we eat can fix a lot of the ailments that we have. And you might have to go in deep at first. You might have to take a deep dive in at first. And then from there, you might be able to open up your playbook a little bit and then say, you know what, I enjoy rice, or I enjoy this, I enjoy that. And even as a diabetic, you can still enjoy some of these foods. You just have to be cautious of how much at a given time that you're going to eat. It's not like it's not like you're getting rid of carbohydrates forever. And for her, she likes like fruit and stuff like that too. So she'll be able to mix some of that stuff back in. But it's like, let's get the blood glucose situation fixed, and let's also get your insulin resistance fixed. And the two ways that we're going to help combat against her insulin resistance are through fasting and through not eating carbohydrates. Those two things are like medicine for insulin resistance, whereas metformin, which is a drug that she's taken, it only helps with her blood glucose levels, which is different than helping with your insulin resistance. So that's the problem with a lot of the medications that are available, is that they don't actually treat like the root cause. They almost always treat, they kind of treat like the end result, which makes you feel better for a bit, but then how long are you going to stay on these medications for, and how long is that going to work for?
It's really crazy though, because you said the blood glucose went down to 75 after day 3 or after day like 5 or 6? Was it after day 3?
Yeah, after day 3, yeah.
And that's the reason why I'm happy about that. But the reason why that's so frustrating to me is because, like, we've seen a lot of doctors use simple dietary interventions like fasting, going keto/carnivore now, and we've seen it working for years. But continuously for people with type 2, the first intervention is giving them medication and insulin, and that's not a permanent change. But simply taking out certain foods, building certain simple habits, just trying to change that part of an individual's lifestyle can get rid of it overall. I mean, I guess it's a little bit more invasive since you have to make sure these individuals are doing this every
Yeah.
day, and people have the capacity to just fall off because they're craving certain things, right? So it's more difficult to keep track of them, but you can make sure they're always taking a pill. But this is more permanent.
Yeah. It's a lot shorter of a story just to say, okay, Nsima, I'm going to write this prescription for you, and you have to take this twice a day. Like, it's just easier, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that doctors are like evil, and I don't think that I don't think that all doctors are hustling just to try to make money. I just think they're just literally trying to do the best that they can
Yeah.
with what they have, and they also might not be that informed. They might not know anything about, like, intermittent fasting, as weird as it might sound, is new. Like, intermittent fasting hasn't really been around that long. The first I heard of it was through a book called The Warrior Diet, which was put out probably like 20 years ago. I mean, and I know that people have talked about fasting before, but he talked about like 1 meal a day type of thing. And that's kind of the first I heard of it. And that disappeared for a long time. And that wasn't in circulation. I didn't know anybody that really even messed with the diet much. And then I would say, 4 or 5 years ago, it started to like really kick up.
Yeah.
And then now it's more popular than ever. But
There's Kino Body, that guy. He's been on YouTube talking about that for a while. But yeah, you're right. In terms of like, I guess it gaining steam, or a lot of people starting to implement it and like seeing a change in the way their habits were. That's been like for, I don't know, the past 3 years or so. So people have been doing it for a while. It just hasn't been super popular. But
for today, we're going to get into talking a little bit about performance, and we're going to talk about performance in a few different ways rather than just talking about strictly the carnivore diet. I'll give my take on the carnivore diet and performance, but we're also going to talk about the carnivore diet, the keto diet, intermittent fasting, and how Nsima utilizes intermittent fasting, and how Andrew utilizes intermittent fasting. And both of these guys, along with myself, we have not noticed major drop-offs in our performance. Some of the things that I'll share, I'll kind of kick it off. And so there's so many different things to think about when you think about my current strength levels. I weigh 100 pounds less than I used to. And I used to frequently be probably about 80 or 90 pounds heavier than I am right now. That top weight, that 330, I wasn't that for very long. But I was consistently between like 290 and 300 pounds for a very long time. Now I'm consistently between 230 and 240 pounds. I would have to say that in maybe the only case that I would know of somebody getting stronger, losing that much weight, would be in somebody who's untrained.
yeah.
And we've seen that in super training here. We have a couple guys in here working out right now that have lost 60 pounds, 100 pounds, 200 pounds. Even my own brother has probably lost about 50 or 60 pounds, and he's gotten a lot stronger. But he was also coming from a place of being like pretty detrained, and he wasn't really messing with deadlifts. He thought he was hurt. He thought he was, he just thought his like lifting career was kind of over. And now it's amazing to see him in there squatting and deadlifting and everything else. But the main thing you have to keep in mind with all diets is that if you lose a significant amount of your body weight, for a girl who weighs 100 pounds, if they lose 5 pounds, that might be a significant amount of their body weight. And if you're a 300-pound guy and you lose 5 pounds, that's not a very significant amount of your body weight. But if you do lose a significant amount of your body weight, you will probably lose some strength in some facets of your lifting. Such as, doing like a row, or doing a deadlift, or doing an overhead press, or a bench press, or a squat, or something like that. But you're also going to gain some ground in other areas. You're going to be able to breathe better. You're going to be able to recover from your sets a lot better.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, just think about the fundamentals of that. You can get from one set to the next faster. What is that going to lead to? That's going to lead to massive changes in your body, because now you'll have more muscle mass on you, because it'll be that much easier for you to work for hypertrophy if you can do 4 sets of 10 in the span of 15 to 18 minutes as opposed to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's going to be a massive change in the stimulus that you're giving to your muscles. So you're going to recover from not only like set to set, but from rep to rep. So you'll be able to do more reps. You'll be able to do more sets. You'll be able to hit things with more frequency. You're going to notice that you're just going to end up in better condition because why? Because you're moving a lot more. I mean, for some people, one of the guys we have in the gym now, you can follow him on Instagram. His name is Russell Buddy. He started at 485 pounds. He's now 430 pounds, and he's making a lot of progress. Obviously, he's still a lot heavier than he wants to be. He's working really hard for it. But he said in the beginning, he's still in the beginning. He said even walking is a pain in the ass. So even for him to do our perimeter walk that we do here at Super Training, it's like about a mile walk. That is very difficult for him. And of course, like stuff like that's going to make you sore because you're not even used to it. But it's like you got to start somewhere. And so, keep in mind that as you get in better shape, you're gaining a lot of other things. But yes, you will lose some strength if you lose a significant amount of body weight.
It's really good, first off, that you mentioned the difference between untrained and trained individuals, because if you're untrained and you're dropping weight, you're going to get stronger. If you're training, you're going to get a lot stronger. You're going to be much stronger even after you've lost 100 pounds because you haven't been training consistently. But one thing the big question I get, and Andrew, I saw this on a lot of his comments on Shred-A-Geddon, is
Andrew's still trying to recover over there.
I am, yeah.
I saw this comments on a lot of his Shred-A-Geddon stuff because he lost 28 pounds or something?
No, like 21.
21 pounds? Yeah. It's like, oh, how much strength did you lose? Did you lose any strength? And Andrew's been training a lot. I'm not going to answer this question for him, but yeah, if you're an individual that's been training for years, and let's say you're going to be going from 200 pounds down to 170, so you're going to be getting pretty lean, chances are is that you might lose a little bit of strength. But then another thing that I see a lot of people ask is, oh, when you're trying to drop, do we just increase the reps and lower the weight, increase the reps? No. I think it's the best thing to do is continue to try to maintain the training style you have. Continue to train for strength. Because you lose body fat, like Mark said, you're getting lighter. You're losing body fat in certain areas where you may have had some cushion, like your arms for bench press, or the back of your hamstrings for squats where you'd bounce off of that. That might not be there. Okay, your leverages will change and you might lose a little bit of strength, but you won't lose as much as you think if you continue to keep the training style and if you don't just drop the volume. Because a lot of people also drop the amount of weight they do because they're like, oh, I'm dropping weight. I got to increase the reps. It's not what you want to do if you're trying to maintain the strength that you have.
Yeah, and I mean, that was the goal for me, right? I was trying to shred as much as possible, so therefore the reps did go up, but it wasn't really the same thing. I wasn't going for at triples instead of like 1 rep max. It was more like, all right, let's hit a set of 8 or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, the leverages thing, it didn't make too much sense to me before all of this, but now it totally does. I mean, imagine wearing 2 gangsta sleeves on your elbows, right? You're gonna be able to bounce that bar right off your chest. So when it comes to the bench, yeah, I do feel like I did lose a little bit of strength. But I also was not focusing on maintaining that strength. Had I focused on that, I'm positive I'd still be right where I was before I started this cut.
Yeah.
The biggest, an obvious one is my deadlift. I matched my PR when I was on SARMs. And damn near 30 pounds heavier.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay.
But you kept training that. I saw you as you were cutting. You kept training that deadlift.
Yeah. I kept training it with different methods. So I wasn't, again, not going for 1 rep max, but I was using trap bar more often. Variations of that, with the elevated heel to kind of work the quads. But yeah, no, I came in, I think it was last week or the week before, and I'm just like, you know what? No one's around. I'm gonna go ahead and just see what I can do. And 275 went up pretty quick. And I'm like, I should probably take an in between, or nah, screw that.
Yeah,
we're gonna go 3 plates. And yeah, I hit it for reps, and it felt, it wasn't easy, but I'm like, shit, that's the most I've ever deadlifted, and I just did it way lighter, like a totally different body, because that was right before the photo shoot, so I had abs at that point, so it was an abs PR.
Dude, the thing you mentioned there, though, and one thing that people tend to forget is when you're dropping a substantial amount of body fat, some people, yeah, you've been there before, but for most people, when you're dropping that body fat, you've never really trained being that way or being that lean. It's literally a different body Okay, so you need to give yourself time to adapt to training in that body. Even if you're a little bit weaker, you can get stronger being that lean. In the past, when I was really lean, I felt frail and weak because I wasn't used to training that way, training that, like, being that lean. But after a while, I got used to it. I got used to just the way it feels, what I need to do preparing to go to the gym. I just got used to training in that body, and it's not like nowadays it doesn't. I don't feel like shit. I don't feel frail.
Right.
So just take some time.
Also, too, if we're just thinking about like energy, right? If let's just say Nsima, let's say you're sleep deprived for, let's say, an entire week, like really sleep deprived, like rather than the 8 hours you're getting like 4 or 5 a night if you're lucky, and maybe you've been doing jiu-jitsu practice hard and you come in here and you try to deadlift as heavy as you can, you're going to be significantly weaker. It's going to be really hard to have the energy output. You didn't recuperate. You didn't recover the way that you needed to. And when we're thinking about dropping a lot of weight, although I'm a person that I'm not a huge fan of counting calories, they still count. They still are a factor. The amount that you consume is still a factor. And so, the question here becomes, can you gain strength while you're losing weight? And I would say if I just had to say yes or no, I would say no. That I wouldn't say that you can't do it, because there's always there's always people that figure out a way to do it, right? But I would just have to say no as an immediate answer if I was to say yes or no, because you're giving your body a lot less energy. Now, if you did it in a very specific way, where you had it figured out to where you're only giving your body like a little less energy than normal, and you're doing like a long diet, then you might have a lot of success with gaining strength. But really, the truth of it is, there's a reason why bodybuilders bulk, and there's a reason why they cut. Then they go back and forth between the two things. Now, the average citizen doesn't really ever consider anything like that. And I think that actually this is hugely problematic. I actually told a guy the other day, I said, dude, go home and eat. Really start to just honestly, for the next couple days, don't weigh yourself. Don't even think twice. Just pull the trigger and eat.
Is he a bodybuilder type?
No, this is one of the guys that's trying to lose weight. He's a heavier guy, but like his weight has stalled a little bit, but he's already made good progress. And I said, you know what? You need to just forget about it for a few days. Just go home because he said he wasn't feeling great. He's like, I'm feeling really tired. I'm feeling really weak. I'm feeling kind of worn down. I said, well, your motivation is in direct correlation to your food and to your sleep. So let's up the food a little bit just for a couple of days. You're still going to be on your diet. I'm not saying go home and eat pizza, especially for somebody that's overweight that's trying to lose. The point is like, I'm trying to give him a surge of energy so he feels good, because we undersell how important the actual training is. So anyone that's on any sort of diet, whether you're doing intermittent fasting and keto, or if you're mixing intermittent fasting and carnivore, no matter what you're doing, if you notice a drop-off in the way that you feel during your workouts, and you just feel exhausted, and you feel exhausted at work, then what you're doing is not very effective. It's not working the way that you want it to work. There is going to be some suffering, and so you're going to have to decide how much of that do you really want. But in my opinion, it's a mistake, because I've done it. I've done it before. It's a mistake to rob yourself of so much energy that now I don't even have energy to come on this podcast and deliver a good message. I don't even have the energy to, be a good friend or be there for my kids. I'm just freaking too tired to do anything with them. You can get yourself to that point, and that's okay to do that for periods of time. But I think that some people should consider eating like a bodybuilder. And I'm not really talking about the actual diet. I'm talking about more in general. Have a season. Okay, summer's coming up. I'm going to tone up a little bit because I'd like to go on a vacation in Hawaii, and I'm going to be on the beach, and I want to look a little bit better. And then the winter time comes around, maybe you put on a little layer, and you don't worry about it as much. But maybe your training changes a little bit. Maybe you get a little stronger, and maybe rather than thinking okay, now I'm going to get fatter, think about, okay, now's the time to get stronger and eat more food and have more energy.
I really like what you said there in terms of first off, the sleep and the diet breaks. I'm not going to go too much on sleep here because we kill that every time. But especially when you're dieting, you know, Andrew's talked about it a lot. He'd take pictures on the nights that he didn't get a lot of sleep. He was holding more water. He didn't look nearly as lean. On the nights that he got sleep, he wakes up looking shredded. You lose more body fat when you're able to sleep.
Probably because he peed the bed.
And he peed the bed.
Not the bed. I definitely peed myself as I was running to the bathroom.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. But I was actually going to ask, I mean, we can touch on sleep, but like when you are depleting yourself, can you make up some of that energy by sleeping a little bit more?
You probably could.
Yeah, no, like...
so your NEAT goes down automatically, right? You're just kind of, you're moving around-ness throughout the day.
Yeah.
And then we had a question roll in from CC Cardenas, I think that's what it is. Basically just like, how come people feel like they need to have carbs in order to build, you know, for hypertrophy and for strength gains?
Muscle glycogen. Like you feel that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know that like if you're kind of lean or whatever and you eat carbs the next day or the next few hours, you get all veiny and you get all full. Well, that full is glycogen going into your muscles, and when you're working out, you feel that. So like you don't, the thing about carbs and the lifting community is they think they need more carbs than they actually do to perform.
That's 100% true. That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's definitely a fact. And especially like a lot of times, no offense to the guy that asked the question, but a lot of times people that are asking these questions, they're like 18 and 20% body fat. Charles Poliquin, you know, he was pretty pretty strict. I went to a seminar of his and he said, look, if you're not 10% body fat or under, which is like, that's some pretty strict guidelines. He said, you got no business eating carbohydrates.
He said that?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I was like, wow, that's a tough line, dude. I was like, can we talk about like 12% or 13%? You know, he's like, no, 10%, dude. Otherwise, don't bother. He just kind of, you know, he thought I think it's a good goal. Like 10%, again, that might be a little strict. I say, look, bicep vein would be a good, you know, get the bicep vein. The bicep vein could, I mean, it could be all over the map in terms of your body fat, but I would imagine that you'd probably be like under 15%. Would you agree with that?
Oh,
For someone to have a bicep vein?
Yeah, under 15%. Yeah.
I think that's legit. Like if you're under 15%, you could probably go for carbohydrates. But again, the point is like, what is the goal? You know, put the goal first and then put all the disciplines, wrap all the disciplines around what the actual goal is. What's the goal? What are we trying to do? If you're 400 pounds, then you don't really need to worry so much about your glycogen levels. I think that you need to really, you probably have made yourself sick if you're getting that heavy. And I mean, there's probably going to be some complications coming around the corner if you've been that heavy for that long. And so I think the only way to kind of to try to like reverse out of some of that is to be pretty extreme for a while.
Yeah. Your body has more than enough energy to work off on its own.
It does, yeah. And we've had people on the podcast say, look, your energy is right around your waistline right now.
Yeah.
Something to point out too, when Nsima was talking about being in a different body, that was huge for me when I was losing weight. And then also another thing that happened too as I was losing a lot of weight, you have to be really careful with the weights that you select for yourself because you're no longer your former self. So if you're a big, strong guy and you really like getting after the weights and you like doing, you know, heavy bent over rows with like 3 plates and you like deadlifting heavy and stuff like that, you're going to have to be really, really conscious and you're going to have to take much shorter jumps towards your maximums, you know? So if you typically are able to bench around 3 plates, you know, try to make sure you're doing 225 for a set or two. Feel that out. Then go to 245. Then go to 275. Just make sure it's all there. And it's not like you're going to lose the weight overnight, but we do kind of lose the weight pretty quickly. And then we're like, man, that 275 was super heavy. And then you try 315 and it hurts your shoulder. Yeah. And then now what's your energy output like? It sucks, right? Because your shoulders hurt, and now you're not as excited about working out anymore. And then maybe your shoulder hurts so bad it affects your sleep. And it's like, you know, it could be a really vicious cycle. I remember working with a lot of CrossFitters, And they would tell me, like, I'm trying to teach them how to use a belt because they would never use a belt, and they certainly would never use a powerlifting belt. They don't have time for that shit. And so I'm teaching them how to use a powerlifting belt, and I'm teaching these guys how to deadlift, 500 pounds and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, you really want to, push your stomach like into the belt.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys have no waist at all. I mean, they have some ab muscles, right? But they don't have a waistline at all. They don't have any thickness to their waist at all either. They're very thin. And anyway, we're cranking these belts on, and the belts aren't doing shit for them. They're not doing anything for them. And they're telling me too. They're giving me feedback, but I'm like, I'm too much in full powerlifter mode to really listen to them and to understand. I'm like, no, dude, you just tighten up your belt and you blow your belly out, and boom, you
Were
explode.
the belts too big?
No, they weren't too big. It's just that, like,
There's no mass there.
They just couldn't.
yeah, there wasn't much mass there, and so it was hard to teach. And maybe after a period of time, maybe I could teach it to them. But I'm like, these fucking guys don't know what they're talking about. I'm like, a belt always helps. You wrap it around pretty tight, and you push into it, and it's gonna give you support.
I noticed how it's so much more uncomfortable wearing a belt extremely tight.
That's all they said. They're like, all it does is hurt.
When you lean out, for sure. So like now when I've been wearing it,
talking about?
when I've been wearing it, I have to wear my hoodie over it, because if not, man, that shit digs into you bad.
And there I am wrapping my belt around my 40+ inch waist. I'm like, it don't hurt at all. What are you guys talking about?
And like I didn't even want to mention that, because like I remember, like, once I got used to wearing it, I'm like, oh, this doesn't hurt at all. And then I would hear someone else saying, like, dude, don't be a bitch. Like,
Right.
It doesn't hurt. And then, but now, like, I leaned out and I'm like, okay, it does kind of hurt a little bit.
And so as I started dropping more and more weight, I started, bending down to pick up like a deadlift. It still helped a ton on a squat.
Absolutely.
But whenever I went to do a deadlift, I was like, I don't feel shit from the belt. I'm like, damn. I'm like, those CrossFitters were right. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might be the reason I've always hated deadlifts and belts. I still always use it on squats, but I've always not liked deadlifts and belts.
Yeah, I don't think it. It can help some people. Some people that like lift with their lower back. Your back is usually pretty flat, and you cheat sumo. Pull.
I do
Sumo.
cheat. Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, when you were, because you've been a big boy. You leaned out pretty good, and you don't have any loose skin, at least that I know of. Let me get his name.
But you got some stretch marks, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I got some stretch marks too.
Cool. His name's Jason Smith. He asked the question, like, does bulking up and leaning out and kind of just doing that on a constant basis, will that help eliminate some of like the loose skin you get from like a big cut?
Yeah, you know what? I don't really know what the deal is with loose skin. I have been fortunate to never really end up with it. I did lose my weight over like a long period of time. So I didn't go from 230. I didn't go from 330 to 230. I went from like 330 to like 290. And then I went from like 290 and 300 to like 270 and 280. And I kind of repeatedly went down. And I went back up in weight a little bit, but I didn't like crazy. There was no crazy fluctuations. Once I made the decision to just really go down in weight, I continued to trend downward just over a long period of time. I mean, it's been like over 10 years ago that I was that heavy. So people ask me a lot, how long did it take you? And I said, well, it took me 10 years because I just, I get to different body weights and I'm always like, I could lose another 10. I can lose another 10. I could lose another 10. I've said that a bunch of times. But now I feel like I'm at a pretty good point. Some people believe that through like keto and through fasting that that is somehow supposed to have you end up with less skin, but I don't know what the information is behind that. I know that there's been some people on the internet talking about like pretty extreme fasts and how you don't end up with any loose skin, but I don't know how true that is. I know a lot of people that have dieted a lot of different ways. And I know a lot of people that have dieted with using keto and some fasting that have had loose skin. I think things like that though too, I think that they can improve over time as well. Yeah. Now, if you lost 200 pounds, like maybe you'll always have scars from that. I don't know. But if you lost like 50 pounds or 100 pounds, I think the likelihood of that like tightening up over a period of time is pretty good. Yeah. We've talked about that on this podcast before. For those of you that are lifting, that have been into lifting for a long time, I got some really great news for you. If you're already obsessed with lifting, you're going to naturally get a little leaner. As long as you're not like completely gross with your diet, you're going to naturally get a little leaner over time. And then at some point, like, that might fall off. But if you're decent with your nutrition, like if you're not making progress right now and you're super pissed about it, 2-3 years from right now, you will be leaner as long as you're paying attention to it.
On the note of that loose skin, one thing that I've noticed across the board is that when people lose a lot of weight, there's a sect of them that they lose it not just really fast, but by also doing a lot of cardio. So they'll do a lot of walking. I had a client years ago when I was training people in person. He lost a lot of weight, but he's like, yeah, I did a lot of walking and running. He had a lot of loose skin. I also know a lot of people that dropped a lot of weight, but they did a lot of weight training. So in that process, they were gaining a good amount of muscle as they were dropping all this body fat, and the loose skin wasn't as severe. So, I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably already know that you got to lift. But if you're really heavy and you're trying to lose weight, know that that's even more so important in your case, because you kind of want to fill things out as you're getting smaller.
Absolutely.
You're going to be losing body fat, but you want to maintain all that muscle, because a lot of bigger people have a lot of muscle because they're having to walk that weight around. So you notice when they drop weight, their calves are beautiful. They have those just giant bulbous calves because they have to walk around.
Right.
But if you can now lift weights multiple days a week to maintain that and gain muscle, the skin problem won't be as bad when
That's
you're
an
leaner.
amazing point. I mean, yeah, think about it. They don't have loose skin in their calves, you know?
Oh, no, yeah.
And I mean, most men, like some of the guys in here that I've seen make outstanding transformations, they don't have any loose skin in like their arms. The only place you see is just literally around their waistline. And like, unfortunately, it sucks that you end up with that. But I think health wise and I think appearance wise, you still look a million times better. And if you can look good in a t-shirt, I think, shit, man, like that's all anybody can kind of hope for.
Yeah.
Have a little bit of a puffed up chest, have a little bit of shoulders, a little bit of lines in your arms, and I think you should be pretty pumped about that.
Yeah.
One other thing real quick. What was the name of the truck guy that came onto the show? I feel so bad for not remembering.
Truck guy.
He Big Diesel's trucks.
Keaton Hoskins.
The
muscle.
The
Yeah.
muscle. He said something that I think is super freaking important for people to remember as they're dropping weight and lifting and trying to maintain strength. There's a big mental aspect to it, because when you get a little bit leaner, you might feel a little bit more frail. You're not as big as you were, right? So you might not feel as good. And when you're physically or mentally not feeling as good, that will affect your performance a little bit. Even if you're getting sleep, even if you're eating enough food, you need to continue to try and attack all of your workouts like you were before, and kind of just ignore the little bit of weight that you've lost, because a lot of times that'll affect the intensity at which you go for a deadlift or a squat or a bench that you usually would go. You're like, oh, I'm leaner, feel a little bit more tired, and you don't attack it and you feel weaker, even though legitimately, if you just kept attacking your training the way you used to, you wouldn't be weaker. There's a really big mental aspect to it. Like when I started fasting and training, initially I'm like, oh, I feel so tired and weak. No, that was stupid. It was just my head.
Yeah, right.
When I got used to it, I was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
And everything was good.
You need to give it a couple days. You need to give it a little bit of time. So as I was mentioning earlier, you might be robbing yourself of energy and you might feel like shit throughout the day. You have to kind of ask yourself the honest question of like how long. Like I've been having some headaches from coffee because I haven't been drinking coffee for the last couple days, and is it going to go away? It's already away. It already went away. Like I had a headache on day number 2 and a headache on day number 3, and how long did each headache last? 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it really wasn't that bad at the time. I was like, fuck, man, this headache is kind of killing me. And I drank water and I was, drinking salt, and I was like, all right, well, I'll just end my fast, and nothing seemed to really help, but it's over with. Like it wasn't that hard to get over it,
So just to like dumb it down, simplify it, or just ask the question that I see more than anything, can you build strength? And if so, how do you train while following a strict carnivore diet?
Yeah, I think you certainly can gain strength on a carnivore diet, because you don't always have to necessarily lose weight when you're on a carnivore diet. Again, I'll go back to what I said in the beginning. If you're going to lose a significant amount of body weight, let's say the carnivore diet is so different and so radical to you that you drop 20 pounds in a month, you will most likely lose some strength. If you're untrained, then maybe you actually get stronger. But if you're already trained up, likelihood of you getting a little bit weaker is probably pretty high. How would I train? That would just be like dependent on what your preferences are. But strength training we've talked about quite a bit on this show, and the rules are always the same. You want to train as hard as you can, but not always as hard as you think. You want to be a little bit careful with how heavy you go and how often you go heavy. I think probably the major problem is people aren't prepared for the program that they're about to do. Probably the greatest thing I've ever heard on this podcast in terms of training was said by Chad Wesley Smith, your nemesis.
My nemesis.
Oh my God, these two are going to lock horns, ladies and gentlemen.
That's gonna be sick.
It's going to be awesome. I'm
At
super.
the Golden One Center.
I'm super. What? We just amped it up a little bit. I'm super hyped up. But Chad Wesley Smith, he said, you always have to be prepared for the next program that you do. He's like, so I don't fucking care about your programming and the program that you're on now. He's like, it doesn't do you any good to like all of a sudden out of nowhere start bench pressing 3 times a week. He's like, how's that going to work? And then if you are going to bench press 3 times a week, well, maybe it would be a good idea to kind of like ease your way into it. Like, oh, this day I'm going to go 60%, this day I'm going to go 70%, and this day I'm going to go 80% since I've never done this before. I want to see how that feels. Let me try that for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and I'll just up the percentages a tiny, tiny bit.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you're down the road a couple months and you got this tremendous progress. But I think, if you're trying to train for strength and you're trying to train to be strong, there's way too many ways to get strong for us to like list out on this podcast. But from what I see in general from a lot of people in commercial gyms and stuff like that, just lower your reps, try to lift a little heavier, try to lift safely, try to have good form, watch some YouTube videos, understand how the bench, squat, and deadlift is supposed to be done, and understand that the assistance exercises oftentimes are just as important as the main exercises themselves. And just be very cautious of, when you're feeling good, be very cautious of taking that next big jump. You might not need it at that time. You don't need to worry about so much about like testing your strength. You need to always, be more concerned about building your strength.
Yeah. So 2 things. I'm going to make it really short. Like you said, there's no different way you need to train while doing carnivore. Like you don't need to train differently than you did before. Even when cutting, you don't need to train that much differently than you did before. But the second, I think most important thing, if we're talking about strength, is making sure like you said, record yourself, but make sure that rep 1 looks like rep 3, looks like rep 4. Maybe it'll go a little bit slower, but make sure that your last rep of your movement, you're not totally breaking down in terms of the way things look. Because that's just a sign, because you're trying to gain strength, so you're trying to lift heavier, but that's a sign that you might be lifting too heavy. You're working with loads you can't handle. And that's the reason why I mentioned that is because that's probably the most common, I'd say, mistake a lot of strength athletes make. The goal is to get stronger, so the intuition is let's lift heavier to get stronger. But when you're lifting too heavy and your lifts look like trash, then not only are you not going to be getting stronger, you're going to be at a risk for injury, and then you're at a risk for just like not being able to lift for a little bit of a while too. So you want to make sure that you're lifting heavy enough where it's challenging. It might be a little bit slower than lighter work would be, but your form isn't turning into total chaos.
Yeah. And then, so another simple question when it comes to aesthetics, can you get ripped, get more aesthetic on a carnivore diet? And if so, what would your training look like?
So just back to how you should train a little bit. Think about this. Like, it actually doesn't make any sense the way that most people train when they're cutting, because they like start hopping around the gym like a goddamn bunny rabbit.
Yeah.
And there's really no reason to be hopping around like that. It actually doesn't really make any sense, because you're most likely in a caloric deficit. You're taking in more energy, and now you're asking yourself to run around like a maniac.
It's hypertrophy, bro. Look it up.
Yeah, now you're asking yourself to run around in the gym like a maniac, and actually, like, it might make more sense to do like singles and triples and give your body this signal, this stimulus of like, hey, this is the way we're going to train today. We're going to work out hard. We're going to stimulate the muscle We're not going to annihilate the muscle. We're going to send a message to the body that, hey, we're going to get stronger, and the protein that we're taking in, we really need to take that in and to help repair and build those muscles. But if you're just going to be wearing yourself very thin, and you're going to be kind of burning the candle from both ends when you go in the gym and you're like, I'm going to do cardio, and then I'm going to do all these circuits, and then I'm going to all the while you're on a low calorie diet. That would not be very smart. Back to the aesthetics thing in terms of a carnivore diet, I think absolutely. I think a carnivore diet will help a lot of people look better. I think it will help a lot of people drop some weight. I think the first thing that people are going to notice is they're going to notice a decrease in some inflammation in their face. Their face is going to be less bloated. The face will look a little leaner. Again, I also highly recommend some intermittent fasting. I really think that that's important. I think minimum 4 or 5 days a week. It doesn't have to be done every day. Having a day or two off of it is kind of nice. It gives you something to look forward to. You can say, you know what, every Saturday morning I'm going to cook up some bacon and eggs, and I'm going to have a big old breakfast, and you can get after it that way. But I really feel that you can make some massive changes with your aesthetics. And then at that point, if you feel like you lost a lot of weight and you feel like you're getting a little stringy and you're getting a little scrawny looking, throw in a fucking potato, throw in some rice, throw in a little bit of carbohydrate. Whenever you feel like you've gotten like as you exhausted all the options with the carnivore diet and it feels really good to you, why not mix the carbs? I want to throw a little bit of carbs back in to help build some muscle mass again.
Yeah. I want, if anyone is curious about that specific question, how do you train for aesthetics during the carnivore diet, or just how do you train for aesthetics in general? I just want you to have the idea that let's just put it all together. You can put strength training and gaining muscle for aesthetics together. You can get stronger and better looking together. They don't have to be two different styles. You can do your strength training and then right after that, do your bodybuilding movements and you're golden. You don't have to change your whole training program for aesthetics. Okay, because I don't get that question a lot because I'm just like, we can do both. Just do your accessories after your lifts, get that in, do that every day after your big compound lifts when you're training for strength, and you will gain muscle in your shoulders, your quads, your calves, etc. You just actually have to do those movements. And it's like pure strength athletes that are only training for like, squat, bench, deadlift or whatever. They tend to kind of just like skip those. Well, now let's just not skip them. Let's give them the time that they deserve. And I guarantee your aesthetics you will look more aesthetic, or whatever way you're trying to look.
Yeah. And then, so another question, if I didn't want to go to the grocery store, but I wanted to get some high quality meat, do you guys have any suggestions where that would be possible to do? Like if I could have something shipped to my doorstep.
I wonder.
Talking about some like modern technology shit.
Yeah.
They're going to fall down like from outer space or something?
I basically want to know, is there like a Tesla of steaks available?
There's this thing. It's called Montepie.
No,
Something like that. My brother actually
dyslexic?
My brother called it he called this the Piedmontese sliders the other day. He called them the baby Yoda of meat. Because they're so cute and powerful, he said. But yeah, I think Piedmontese would be a great certified Piedmontese would be a decent start, I think.
Yeah.
For some reason they have like mutant steaks that have tons of muscle, tons of protein in them, and for some reason there's no fat, but yet they taste really good.
Yeah, those jacked cows claim natty.
I'm still confused by the whole thing.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's great because you can eat so much meat, and if you're dieting or even if you're not, but like most people that diet avoid red meat because of the amount of fat, right? Well, now you can just eat all the meat you want.
Yeah. One of the most awesomerest things about it is that they'll ship directly to your door. You guys seriously got to try it out. It's head over to Piedmontese.com. That's PIEDMONTESE.com. At checkout, enter promo code PowerProject. Oh boy. For 25% off your order. And if your order is $99 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. And then real quick, question from our boy Matthew on Facebook. If you guys aren't following Mark Bell's Power Project on Facebook, this is one of the benefits of following because you get to watch it live.
We're just crushing people's screen time.
Yeah,
that's all we're doing.
Yeah, there's nowhere you can hide from us. But he's asking how much salt on the carnivore diet. I know it comes up quite a bit because we can use it as like a pre-workout. He already salts his food plenty well. Like, is there any like I don't know. Is there any way you can actually like measure how much salt you should be taking in?
3250 milligrams. Yes,
Mhm.
exactly that amount. Actually, no.
There are some amounts out there that people share. Like if you check out Keto Gains, he talks about it quite a bit. He also sells a product that is in that space. But if you're just add some salt to your steaks, and then if you feel like you need a little energy kick, try just throwing a little bit of salt in your water. Something I do every morning is I throw a little bit of salt in the first glass of water that I drink in the morning. That's something that helps me a lot. And then I also use Perfect Keto Electrolytes. They're just little capsules. I'll use maybe 2, 3, depending on the day, depending on how much stuff I've done for the day. And I like to take this stuff before I'm in trouble. I like to take this stuff as like preparation. So I'm not like, oh my God, I'm cramping, and then I down a whole bottle of the Perfect Keto Electrolytes. I usually try to make sure that I have it before the training session, so I get a little zip. Because a lot of times that energy dip that you're feeling, or that head fog that you're feeling, just has to do with the balance of water in your body.
Yeah, real quick, let's kind of tie that into, we're talking about utilizing fasting during a lot of World Carnivore Month, right? And it's going to be a really good idea if you can train in your fasting period. But I think you probably get a lot of the questions like, oh, can I take a pre-workout, or what should I eat right after, etc. I think first off, like, it is really powerful to train fasted. And initially you might feel a little bit tired, since you usually might eat 2 hours or so beforehand. Right. But it's something that you're going to get used to. You do a lot of fasted training now, right?
Yeah. My pre-workout is nothing, and my post-workout is the same. I usually work out in the morning, and I don't get around to eating. A lot of times my exercise for the day could be done by like 6 a.m. And I'm not eating until, like 4 p.m. or something like that. I do think that there's great information about, having some post-workout meals and post-workout shakes and things like that. That can be super effective for people. I also think that you might be able to kind of ride the line, and you might be able to do a little bit of both. But what I suggest for people is just try fasting. Just try it as strict as you can follow it for a while, because people do ask a lot about, like, can I have a post-workout protein shake? I don't think look, here's the thing, is a post-workout protein shake is not going to make you fat, right? No. A post-workout protein shake is not going to make you fat. In addition to that, will a post-workout protein shake negatively impact your fat loss? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to negatively impact. But sometimes it's important that we just try stuff just to see how it feels. And if it feels better to have the protein after the workout, then by all means throw that back in. But you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to give it an actual real shot. I think the gist of it on fasting is that we have glucose in our body. Our body produces its own glucose, as well as getting dietary glucose. And so if you're somebody that eats carbohydrates and you utilize some fasting, you can kind of think of this. Your muscles are using up glucose. Your body's using up glucose. You're running off of that as energy for the day, along with fats and other things. But primarily, you might be running off of some of the carbohydrates in your system. Then your liver is going to burn off the glucose as well. And then once that's done, the human body is like, hey, like, what else we got? You got anything else? Hey, check around, see what you got. Oh, there's some love handles over there. Those don't look very good. Let's ship those on out of here, right? So your body will start to utilize its own body fat. And that's part of one of the major benefits of fasting. And there's a lot of other things that go on with fasting. But again, I don't think having like a protein shake is going to really interrupt that. And I actually think at this time, I don't even know if we have enough information on what that truly does. But anyway, I think give the honest fast, give it a good shot, give it a try for yourself. The other question I get all the time is, does coffee break my fast? And having some black coffee is not going to be something that breaks your fast. There's some people that say you can even have about 50 calories during your fast. Thomas DeLauer being one of them. He researches it quite a bit. I'll take his word for it. You can have about 50 calories or so during your fasted state and not interrupt it in any way. In addition to that, like I think throwing like the perfect keto, like MCT powder, again, I don't think that's going to hinder your progress in any way. If anything, it's going to help your progress because it's going to help you to fast for longer.
I did that this morning.
But I would also say that if you're the moment that you have any calories, I would just say that I'm a believer that that does break your fast, but it's not going to negatively impact your progress, and it's not going to negatively impact many of the things that you'll get from fasting. It just slightly is interrupting the fact that you're not consuming any energy.
Yeah. And then another note for individuals that, like, let's say you're a competition level athlete, you want to use fasting, maybe in your training. I think it's a good idea because it's not going to hamper your training that much. But when it comes to comp day, it'd be a good idea to like eat a little bit more food that night before and beforehand before competition, because like training when fasted is like a hormetic effect. It's just like a little bit, it's a little bit of stress. And then what you can do is when you're getting closer and closer to the competition, maybe have 1 or 2 of your training sessions where you might actually eat a little bit more, and you can see what that surge feels like, because you will feel a little bit stronger. You will. So when competition day comes and then you eat that like little bit of extra carbohydrates or a little bit of extra calories before you go and compete, you're used to what that feels like, and it's like you have an extra boost. That's what I look at it like. Like when I'm going to compete in jiu-jitsu competitions, I'm going to eat a little bit of food beforehand. I'm not going to fast into the competition, but that's not something that I think you need to do every single day of training. I think you could definitely get the benefits of fasting into your training, but not on comp day.
When you did Worlds this year, did you eat beforehand?
Yeah, I ate like a little bit of oatmeal beforehand. I also had some coconut water because there was potassium on deck in between matches, and some electrolytes. That's the main thing. But on the note of electrolytes, that the perfect keto electrolytes are super beneficial whether you're doing any type of cardio work like jiu-jitsu or lifting. Have like 3 or 4 of those, especially when you're fasting. That's going to be really beneficial so you don't cramp up, you don't feel bad. Have that with some water. That'll help a lot.
Yeah. And so we're running out of time, but I wanted to hit a few questions that came in. Let's hit them like rapid fire. I think it's Kayla Fly on Periscope.
What?
We're also on Periscope. So this is cool. This was the first question that I get to read from that platform. What are your guys' thoughts on greens while on the carnivore diet as far as like a supplement? Just real quick, if you can.
Yeah. I would just ditch them for a period of time.
Okay, and then Brookshire also on Periscope. In episode 305, Mark, you were talking about bone broth. How much per day and why?
Bone broth has collagen in it, and it also tastes good. And yeah, I mean, it's also something that can kind of help you whenever you're on any sort of diet, because it's very, very low caloric intake. I throw a little bit of butter in there, and I throw some egg in there as well. But if you just have it plain, with just add some salt or herbs or something like that, it has like, I think like 30 or 40 calories.
That's when you're breaking your fast, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, just
Yep.
That's when he's
How to
breaking his
clarify.
fast.
Yeah. Okay, then Dylan Box asks about glycine while fasting. So BCAA, glycine while fasting. Doesn't exactly say the question, but do you guys think it's important?
I think glycine is I think that's part of the reason why you have bone broth as part of the diet. I think actual meat might lack glycine. I kind of forget some of these different things. I just take the stuff and I start to implement it. As far as like are amino acids or any sort of supplements important during fasting, I don't really think so.
I wouldn't take BCAAs while fasting. I forgot where I read this, but there's something in branch chains that will affect like the benefits of the autophagy process during fasting, and that's one of the things you want to avoid. So I don't have all the facts on that right here, but I've heard that and read that multiple times, where at this point I don't use BCAAs while fasting, and that would be something that I would just suggest you use it after. I don't think it's not gonna kill your fast or anything, but it will dampen some of the effects that you get from fasting.
I think you're just trying to let your body do its thing.
Yeah.
And anything that you take in can compromise that.
Yeah. Especially BCAAs.
And then this one, sorry I missed it earlier, but this is a great question, and we can end on this one. Men Yo B. He's doing great on carnivore right now, but he is craving something sweet. Any recommendations for our boy Menyo?
Craving something sweet, man, that gets to be hard, especially on a carnivore diet because everything is like more savory and salty and fatty rather than there's really not much sweetness to it.
Mhm.
I would stay away from like soft drinks and stuff like that, just because I think that can kind of trigger you and that can kind of just leave you thinking about sweets all the time.
Yeah.
Instead, I would like end your day with like a protein shake. We have our own protein powder, Slingshot Protein. We also have Keto Pro, which you can get on our website. And then in addition to that, our people over at Perfect Keto, they have whey protein. And then also too, you can make up, like if you get a little creative with it, you can mix up like kind of a hot chocolate mix with the Perfect Keto MCT oil powders. They got vanilla, chocolate, salted caramel. Those are really good. All you need is some hot water.
Yeah.
Mix it up, and it's really good. If you mix that with their collagen protein and warm it up a little bit, it's really, really good. So that would be my suggestion. I don't think you can really you can't really screw around too much. I don't think the diet sodas and those kind of things are. I just don't think they're a great idea.
Yeah, I'd stay away from those. But no, the Perfect Keto stuff's really good. Okay, real quick. On carnivore, we're still allowing some like heavy cream and stuff?
Yeah, you can have some of that. Yeah.
Okay, because I was gonna say like you could make it just like a bomb ass milkshake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you really could if you
Yeah.
had some blended ice with the MCTs and maybe some of their like protein or whatever.
Yeah.
You could make a bomb shake, and it's sweet and it's good.
Oh
and
my
it's
God,
not out of the
it's
diet.
so good.
Yeah. So another simple question: protein shakes are okay on carnivore?
Again, I think we're trying to be as strict as possible.
Mhm.
So, you want to stick with meat and eggs and bone broth. So, if I say to people that heavy cream is okay, then they'll have it every day and they'll have way too much of it.
It's true.
Yeah.
So you can have heavy cream, but how much heavy cream? Like, I don't know, maybe just have a little bit of it like once a week or something like that, or buy like the smallest carton you can. And when you run out of it, don't buy
That's
it
it.
again for a while.
Yeah.
And then the same thing with like, protein shakes and stuff like that. I don't really think they're going to like negatively impact your progress. But we're trying to see what happens when the human body eats meat and eggs.
Mhm.
That's what we're really trying to uncover, and without the influence of just about anything else. So
Yeah.
again, if you want to throw down a protein shake because you think it's going to help you recover a little bit better from your workout, I would say, go ahead and do it here and there. If it helps you get through the day, it helps you put up points on the scoreboard, you end up with a victory for the day, then that's great.
Yeah.
Or just go take a 10-minute walk. You walk it off.
That's
Yeah,
easy.
walk it off.
Yeah.
Take a
But
cold shower.
Mark mentioned Perfect Keto. If you guys want to give that a shot, head over to perfectketo.com/powerproject. At checkout, enter promo code PowerProject10 for $10 off any order of $40 or more. Shout out to the live listeners today. You guys asked some really good questions. Really appreciate it. We're
You guys
trying
are
to,
dope.
yeah, we're making this podcast the most interactive podcast on the planet. We're kind of
Hell
already there, but we're you guys can use this as a tool to get better at any aspect of your life. But obviously right now we're talking about diet and nutrition. And then what's really cool is when we get like good feedback and good suggestions. Our listener of the show, Todd Marr, brought it to my attention that you can hard boil eggs inside the air fryer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know the exact like recipe or whatever, but just Google it and figure it out. But I'm like, damn, dude, that's mind blowing.
That's craziness.
Yeah, because you can
Yeah.
probably do it way quicker than boiling up a bunch of
Yeah.
eggs.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think it's like 270 for 15 minutes.
yeah, dude, set it and forget it.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
All right. Well, you can find me at Mark Smellybell on Instagram and YouTube and Twitter and TikTok. Where can people find you, Nsima?
Oh, snap. Switcheroo. Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, and then Nsima Yin Yang on TikTok and Twitter.
type move.
How about you, Mr. Zaragoza?
We've been having a lot of fun on Instagram at Mark Bell's Power Project. We are on Twitter at MB Power Project. Same thing with Periscope at MB Power Project. Facebook.com/Power Project. LinkedIn.com Twitter.com/IN/Power Project. Each platform has its own benefits to following, so I suggest you follow all of them. Twitter, you're going to get everything first. Instagram, you're going to get everything and then some. LinkedIn, I connected with another podcast and gave them tips on how to better run their podcast. So if you're interested in getting into this, I can help you out there. Same thing with photography. It's real intimate. It's real one-on-one. A lot of these other platforms like TikTok at MB Power Project also, we don't have a gigantic following. Eventually that's going to change. If you get in right now, any question you have, any suggestion, anything that you say will be heard. Therefore, get in now, because at some point there's going to be so much noise that we won't be able to hear everybody. Right now, every single thing you say, we are hearing and we're listening. So you have a chance to mold this show. Get in right now and make this show exactly what you want. That's the benefit of following us on all platforms, and we are literally everywhere. You can't escape from us. You can't hide. We're making that. Exactly. That's happening on purpose. So yeah, follow us all over the place. Links are in the description of this YouTube video, of this in the YouTube video, in the Facebook live stream, and on iTunes, and on Mixer, and on Twitch. There's no excuses.
Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you all later.